Welcome to the Holeshot Hustle. Buckle up, moto fans. This episode is wide open. Today, we dive into the journey of a legend on two wheels, Brook Whipple.
From shredding trails in Washington to winning national championships at Mammoth, Baja Brawl, Ponca, Oak Hill, and Mini-O's, Brook has faced it all. With 15 years of racing, she's one of the nation's fastest female motocross racers, a mentor, and a coach.
She's sharing her wild ride from sketchy Arenacross starts to conquering rough tracks with massive jumps, plus game-changing advice for young female riders chasing their dreams.
Oh, and did we mention this Holeshot machine isn't afraid to face her fears? Now she's telling you how she did it.
Love motocross, mental toughness, and big dreams? Don't miss this episode. Hit like, smash subscribe, and lock in. Brook Whipple is taking the Holeshot Hustle to the next level.
Racers, when you're at the track, FFW Motorsports has everything you need to keep you on the gas. From race fuel and fresh tires to goggle tear-offs and essential parts, they've got you covered.
And if you're racing at Mesquite MX, FFW Motorsports is trackside all the way through Old Mini, keeping you stocked up with gear you need so you can focus on the podium.
Don't get caught without the essentials. Stop by FFW Motorsports and get race ready.
When it comes to keeping your vehicle running smoothly, Cedar Transmission and Automotive is your go-to in Cedar City, Utah. From expert transmission repairs to rebuilding transfer cases and differentials, they've got the drivetrain expertise you need.
As Southern Utah's drivetrain specialist, Cedar Transmission and Automotive offers reliable, top-quality service to get you back on the road. Whether it's a simple fix or a full rebuild, trust them to handle your ride with care.
For all your drivetrain needs, visit Cedar Transmission and Automotive, your trusted local experts.
Stop by or give them a call and tell them the Holeshot Hustle sent you.
All right, let's drop the gate on this episode.
Let's do it.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here and get to do this interview with you guys.
I feel a little nervous. I feel like we've got a bona fide celebrity here. Are you as nervous as I am?
A little bit,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's going to be good. I feel like this will be fun.
I'm excited to do it. We had a little initial conversation with you at the track a couple weeks ago down in Mesquite, and you've had some really incredible experiences and really had an awesome race career. And I'm like, man, there's just so much information I feel like to dig into here. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and everybody knows me personally knows, like I told you guys, I'm story time. So, I always have something to say. But no, I have had a really blessed career and journey in this sport. And honestly, when I first started, I never thought it would be anything like it was. And I feel like kind of what we were talking about, God just kind of brought me to the people that he was going to, and they were a lot greater than what I thought I was worth, but he always shows me I'm worth more than sometimes I think. So, no, I feel super blessed and, keep moving forward, and we'll see. I still have goals, even though I'm getting a little older. I feel like the sport for women's motocross specifically is more coming back around now. So, I still have a huge passion for it, and I still feel like I can be that person if, the cards are right and I put in the work. Putting in the work is the biggest part, and staying disciplined. It's hard. Anybody knows that. Any racer knows that. But yeah, great career, and hopefully can extend it more.
Well, I wanted to have a woman or a lady or one of the young ladies from the series on the podcast. I've kind of reached out a couple of times to some different people. So I want to congratulate you on being our first lady on the show to represent the sport.
Thank you.
And why don't you, can you give us just kind of a brief bio, about your career and some of the accomplishments you've had?
Yeah. Taking it back, I started when I was 13, which originally is why my number was originally 13. I quickly turned 14, and we kind of figured out what Loretta's was and what not. And that was in 2009 I started racing. And then by 2010, I made it to Loretta's for the first time. And then after that, I was just hooked. I really liked the nationals. I had kind of originally seen it somewhat from some of the local kids that were around. Darian Sinai at the time was a really big kid from the Northwest that, was doing the nationals, and other people too, but I was surrounded by some of those people. So they helped push me. And between now and then, I've won multiple championships and, gone to Loretta's, like I told you guys, I think 11 times between now and then.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the only time that I haven't really gone is if I haven't tried. And then there was one year where there was an incident. I didn't do a backup region because I didn't really think I needed it. And I probably wouldn't have, but I got tangled with a lapper, and it was at Honey Lake, and it was eventful. But other than that, I've made it pretty much every time I've tried. Worked really hard to get where I'm at. Definitely a few championships along the way, but still would like to accomplish more. I feel like I should have had more by now, but I guess that's the price you pay when you're learning and, learning to do it right, I guess. Mistakes happen.
Well, for some of our younger listeners, especially the girls in the sport, take us back to how you got started. Like when, you were 13,
Yep.
You got your first dirt bike. What was it?
So originally dirt bikes were when we went camping. So my dad was he'd tell you himself, kind of a redneck. And we would always go camping. I was from Washington State, and we'd go jeeping and stuff like that. And one of my buddies had a dirt bike, and he had a PW actually. And I think I was 9 at the time, and I just saw it, and I'd always want to ride it around. I tried riding a quad, and it was terrible. I got high centered on a log. I was over it. I didn't want that. So I tried the dirt bike. That was fun. And then I just ride his when we went camping. So my dad ended up buying me a dirt bike, and he got me an XR80. And so I think my first dirt bike I got was when I was actually 10, but it was a trail bike. And we did that for a while. And then I ended up taking, I would just ride when we go camping. My dad got a bike, and we'd all go, do logging trails and go in the mountains. And then,
Now, did your dad ride dirt bikes growing up too? No, that was kind of his first foray into it? No,
yeah.
nice.
So I guess nobody in my family ever came from motocross, and that was something that's a lot different than a lot of the racers, because sometimes, not always, but no. Nobody in my family knew how to ride, and they definitely didn't know how to give me any advice. So I rode for a few years on trail bikes, but I always wanted to jump. And my dad took me to a class with a trainer that was up in the Northwest, and he told my dad he thought I should get probably a race bike because I just wanted to keep jumping, and he's like, this thing isn't going to hold up. So my dad actually ended up giving me a CRF 100 and didn't listen. He got me a 100. And then we went and did what's called the Desert 100. It's like an off-road race in Washington. And I ended up doing the kids race, and I got 18th out of 120 kids, and I was pumped. I got a dirt bike trophy, and traditionally, I always grew up doing school sports. So I was like, this is sick. Everything's in my hands. I don't have to worry about the team, because I'd always be the one who's the try hard on the team, but nobody else wants to try hard. And then no matter what, you're going to lose. So yeah, you see, relatable. Yeah. So, anyways, though, so that's how I kind of got into it. And then my dad had got me my 100 for my 13th birthday. I went and did that race a month later, and he's like, no, we're getting rid of that. So he surprised me with a CRF 150, a used one at this place. I was super excited. It was very cool. And then he got me into racing a few months later in Arenacross. That was sketchy. And I was super dangerous.
Now I'm curious, how did you guys, was it kind of you pushing to move into that, or did they what was the inspiration to get into racing?
Well, so just to be clear, so my parents were separated. They have been since I was younger. So this was more something I did with my dad. And my mom, she always knows, she knows her daughter. She's like, okay, if it's something you love, then you can pursue it. But no, it was definitely me. I had such a fun time at that race. It was maybe a 3-hour drive home after. And he was he probably didn't hear the end of it. I was I had 2 trophies that I had got, but the one that I got for the 18th out of 120, I was pumped on. And I had crashed on the last loop lap thing. So I probably would have been top 10 if not. And all the other kids were on race bikes because they actually raced here and there. So they all had 2 strokes and stuff. And I'm just on this CRF 100.
I was going to ask you, you said it was a desert race in Washington?
Yeah.
Was it in Washington?
Yep. So it was in Odessa. And so it's something that they host. I don't know if they still do it.
Now, when I think of Washington, I think of trees, redwoods and wetness and stuff, but it was a desert race.
So yeah, because if on the west side of Washington, I guess if you will, Seattle, it's more trees and stuff. And then if you go to Yakima or the east side, Spokane, it gets a lot more deserty. Oh, okay. So it's we have a few tracks, some that are Washougal, where you're in the woods, but then you have places Horn Rapids or something like that. That's more on the east side of the mountains, and it's you get a lot of sand out there. surprisingly.
I guess that's true. We've never been to Horn Rapids, but from what I've seen, the videos
Yeah.
and pictures, is this kind of
It's
deserty looking?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a lot out there. It's kind of like Mesquite.
Is it really?
Yeah, it kind of looks like Mesquite. So, but anyways, like I know I pop up thought a lot, but no, that's how I got into racing. And then my dad surprised me with the 150, and then he asked me if I wanted to do some more racing or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, well, I found this Arenacross, and I'm like, what's that? Because I didn't know anything about like jumps and anything like that. We just did the off-road race, so I was like, well, that's fun. I liked racing my dirt bike. He's like, well, let's do this Arenacross. So we went to do that, and like he had bought me a CRF 150 big wheel. And he didn't know anything about it. And he's like, well, that'll give her the opportunity to grow into it. But what he didn't know was that the only class that they allowed the big wheel in was the super mini class.
Oh boy.
no.
Oh my gosh, dude. It was as dangerous as it sounds. And I showed up and I tried to race the beginner class where I really belonged. And these races are in horse arenas. So they're small. I mean, you're talking like 20-second lap times. And they wouldn't let me. The promoter made me race super mini. And I mean, these kids that I was racing with were trying for Loretta. Some of them made it. Like, they were advanced. And these dads, dude, it got bad. Like, because I wouldn't hold my line.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't jump. I mean, so the dads and the kids are coming up and yelling at me. And,
Oh, man.
and it was bad. And so anyways, I survived. And, I had to get with the program quick, clearly. And then from there, I had a few trainers here and there, and they really helped elevate me. And pretty much I started in 2009, and by 2010, I was more competitive in the super mini in Arenacross, and we did a lot of like the PRO series, which is a big series up in Washington that is popular. It's probably the bigger one up there. So
We've wanted to go do one at from the PRO. I believe it is the PRO up in Idaho.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
What is it called? Fossil Bowl.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
Possible.
So since I've done the PRO series, the rounds have changed and they do things that I never went to that track. I don't even know that it existed when I lived there. But we would do it at like Washougal a lot, Horn Rapids, Albany in Oregon, and then Airway Heights in Spokane, I think it was.
Gotcha.
But either way, it was fun, and I quickly started getting better because in 2009 we did the Arenacross in the winter, and then I think come March, then you kind of go outdoors because it starts to dry up a little more, and we would go east, and I actually ended up winning the 85 Open beginner class in the PRO series, and then the women's beginner class. And I was like all pumped on it because like I had a battle on my hands and I broke my collarbone midway through the season, so it was like a fight.
Now, was this still on your CRF 150?
Yeah. So
Right
this
on.
was still on the 150. I got a little better. We figured out that I needed to have valve suspension. Like people were a little more friendly. Like they're like, hey, like, because I was running stock suspension. And like I remember, I don't know who it was, but somebody suggested that like maybe you should get her suspension valve because we were still doing Arenacross at this point. And I remember coming off the track with my valve stuff. I told my dad, oh my gosh, that's the biggest mod you can do to a bike. Like I didn't know about motor mods. I was like, this is a mod. And I was like, your suspension, because then I told him I can case anything or overshoot something and I not feel like I'm going to fly off the track. So that was big for my confidence because then I started jumping more. So
I bet it made a big difference. Suspension, in my opinion, is like the number one thing. So
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that it's a big difference between like winning and losing because it's dangerous if you just have stock stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're ballpark weight wise enough, then maybe it's not as bad because you can tune it in. But most of the time, I mean, at least for someone like me, I'm not, on a 250, especially when I got on 250s, it's very hard to set up suspension for smaller riders, that aren't necessarily meant for a big bike like that. But I can't race competitively on a super mini, so.
now you don't see that very often, a 150 in like the super mini classes and stuff like that. So, I mean, obviously you made it work, but how was that bike in that class?
Well, to be real honest, at the point that I was actually racing it, I mean, the people that were beating me were just straight up better than me. I mean, I just didn't have the skill or the experience at that point, I think.
Gotcha.
So the bike didn't necessarily hold me back, but I still got really good starts. I was still competitive. And if I would have just had better skill at that point, I mean, it might have been, I don't know. I don't know what those bikes were pushing either, though. A lot of them had the 112s and stuff. It did make a difference. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have known the difference back then anyways. I would have just thought it was me. I remember telling Cody, who's my boyfriend, I was like, I remember when I was younger, like I'd pull up in Arenacross and all the kids were on 2-strokes. And I didn't know, like, I knew they were on 2-strokes. I was on a 4-stroke, but I liked how they like 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 ring them out.
Yeah.
And so I'd like pull up and try to like, have the bike idle and then like clean it out. And people just look at me like, you don't need to be doing that, And I'm like, yeah, you guys, but no, the bike was good. I liked it. And honestly, I was really sad when we sold it because I tore my ACL. And I mean, when we got rid of it, I was 15. It wasn't like I needed to get rid of it, but everybody around me was like, oh, you're so much faster on the 250. Like, yeah, it's a faster bike. Yeah. So we got rid of the 150, I think, prematurely just because then a few years later, I started racing nationals, or maybe even, actually, I raced nationals then, but I didn't do the whole circuit because the first time I went to Loretta's was 2010. And then I went again in 11. And I think by 13, we moved to Cali. And 13, I qualified again. 12 was the year that I had the mishap with the lapper, so I didn't make it that year.
Tell us a little bit about the transition from the PRO series, the Arenacross, the outdoor motocross. When did you know that it was time to go to nationals? How did that happen? Like, did you just?
Honestly, I did. Let me think about this. I did a lot of the PRO series and I started getting faster and recognized there. And a lot of people were talking about, oh, you should do nationals and whatnot. And my dad took me out of like public school, around the age of like, I think I was going into, maybe I did 9th grade and that was it. And so at that point I was spending a lot of time at home while I was watching a lot of videos on YouTube because YouTube was kind of a newer thing. And at the time, nobody really did a lot of like what they do now with the podcast or like the, follow me around and watch my life on YouTube. So like jayzixloan.com was a big thing back then, which, he's one of my friends. He passed away a few years ago but we really loved him, really good guy. And so I watched him and he would do all the nationals. I remember I was like, dang, this guy's on his own ride, like his dad and all them, they show up and they have so much fun. And like, I was like, I want to do this, Dad. Like, I want to do the nationals. I was like, look how much fun they look like they're having. And like, it was super cool because like, he wasn't really considered factory. I mean, he had factory support, but like kind of like a satellite ride, but his dad kept it where it was all them. So it was like, he's battling against Cooper Webb sometimes and like Adam Cinderella and those guys are like, they've got all this stuff. And to me, I was like, man, that's cool. So that's kind of what like sparked it somewhat. And then, like I said, there was locals around that would talk about the nationals and it was like, well, let's go see let's see what it's about. So actually some of the kids that were a little bitter about me being in the Arenacross Super Mini class ended up becoming some of our friends. And we actually partnered up with them and went down to World Minis, and which is funny because it happened to be where I live now in Mesquite. Right. Anyways, we went and did that, and again, social media wasn't big, so like I walked into that race thinking, I've been winning everything up here, like I'm gonna go kill it here, and like it was humbling. I mean, I got the whole shot and I led a little bit, but the ruts, I remember thinking, I was like, man, I am struggling. And like the people, I was like, these girls are so fast. And at the time, I mean, I'm talking about like Amanda Mayhew and Jennifer Burton and Brandy Richards, which Brandy still races and she rips. Always did. But I mean, a lot of those other girls, they don't race no more. And man, they were fast. And like for me, I was like out of my element. But
how was what did your parents think about the whole thing? Like, were they both really supportive and like, yeah, let's do it? Or because I know like in my family, I'm kind of the main support. My wife's a little less,
a little more back.
Not that she doesn't support, but she like stresses about money and stuff. So she's a little bit more of like the brakes.
Yeah,
I'm more the gas
about it.
I'm the gas. She's the brakes. How's that?
I got you.
How was that mixture in your life?
My parents both, I feel like have always, I mean, with my mom's side, obviously I had my sister, but my dad, I'm his only kid. And like, he was always my buddy. He really didn't do the whole girlfriends thing. Like we were just homies and he's like, let's go do something fun, And like, my mom always supported me and my dad and vice versa. I feel like, I mean, once I got older and when motocross came into my life, it was like my mom, there's a lot of backstory to that. So we'll get into that maybe later, but my mom was a recovering drug addict. Okay. My whole life, like, well, not my whole life, but like, 3 different times she went out, had to go get treatment, whatnot. So that happened until I was about 7 or 8. And anyways, long story short, she got her life together. She works for Wells Fargo now and she's honestly very inspirational to me. changed her whole life around. Had my sister, but when I started racing, she had her job for a few years and was doing really well. Well, she was strapped with work, and my dad had the time. So even though they weren't together, you know, my mom's like, listen, I'll help fund it a little bit. My dad helped fund it too, but you know, my mom was more like the financial. My dad's like, all right, I'll take the time. So they kind of teamed up together to help me, you know, chase my dream.
That's super cool.
It's super cool. You know, I'm super blessed for that, because a lot of parents that, you know, they butt heads and they can't make it work, but they did for me, and they've always supported and believed in me. You know, they're like, all right, you want to do this? Okay, we'll do this, you know? So, yeah,
Nice.
no, they definitely supported me a lot, and they still do, you know, or well, my mom does a lot for me now. And so does my grandparents and my boyfriend and stuff. And me and my dad, you know, we talk and stuff. And, but my mom's side is very, very, very vested in helping me live my dreams.
Nice. So you tip into nationals, it sounds like, at the World Mini. And then where did you go from there?
So I'm a little backwards, I guess. I think so. 2010, I went and did my first nationals, which was Ponca City.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And Loretta's, because back then it went Ponca City, and then the very next week you'd turn around, go to Loretta's. That's how it used to be.
Right.
So we did that, and that was awesome, and it was fun. And then the next year, that was when I went and did what I was talking about with World Minis in 2011. So I guess I kind of had figured it out a little more. But again, social media wasn't huge. I don't even know that Instagram or anything like that existed. It was like MySpace, you know, and it wasn't like people were using that as a marketing platform for themselves. So like you didn't really know who was who until you showed up, you know, like people just did the work in silence, like how it used to be, and then like would show up, you know.
I kind of miss that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think, you know, for people especially, I mean, social media can be good or bad, and it depends on who you are as a person too, because if you're a mental person, you know, then you see your competition or whatever, then it may be a little more effective than if someone who's just like, I don't really care, you know, like I know what I'm doing. I don't care about what you're doing. But again, that also comes down to work ethic.
Right.
When you know what you're doing, and you know that you're putting in the work that you know you need to do. I don't think that you so much worry about everybody else anyways, but I think it's very important to not be on social media too much.
So doing the national doesn't, excuse me. I don't know what's happened.
Frog in your throat there?
So going back to the national, like racing against other riders, does it scare you, like how aggressive they were when you were like just beginning out, or?
Like when I was a beginner and stuff, yeah, more because I felt like in certain situations, like when I was racing Arenacross, not so much nationals, I wouldn't say, like, because by the time I got to nationals, I was kind of like at the skill level I needed to be for the classes I was competing in. But when I had first started, most definitely, because I mean, when you're put in the wrong class, especially, it's like those kids were jumping over my head. I mean, one of the times I took one of them out because I didn't even know, like I just ran him into a berm. I didn't even know. And then he cleaned me out the next lap. I'll never forget it. I was like, oh man. But no, that was more scary at the beginning when I didn't have the experience. But the more I was in it, and the more like, I feel like I was kind of someone who was the aggressor. So in my classes, like, at least I like to think so. So not so much. I think the starts are kind of used to be intimidating for me when I first started, just because of the funnel. Like I'd always get good starts, like good reaction time. But if you don't know how to funnel, like, you know, like it can be scary. But no, nobody's ever really been aggressive towards me. I think that has made me be like, oh man, at least in the women's class. I mean, sometimes the guys get a little gnarly, but I try to hold my own.
So how was your first trip to Loretta's?
It was good. I remember going, I had high expectations. And it was really hard, like once I got there, but I mean, it was a lot of fun. It taught me that I needed to be a lot better, because I thought I was at a certain point and wasn't. But I remember thinking, because like I actually qualified the first year I went to Loretta's in 2 classes. I made it in the little girl class because I was still racing my 150, and then I was racing my 250 because I was 14. So I was able to do both classes. But at the time, the AMA had the rule where you could only race one or the other. So I had a trainer at the time, and they were like, you know, let's just go with the bigger bike class because you'll be the youngest girl in the class. Don't know why we did that. And I went, and sure, I was the youngest girl in the class, but nobody knew my name because I wasn't a national person, you know, like I was out of the woodworks kind of thing. So like I went, and I think my best moto finish was a 19th, which I was not happy about that. You know, I think I ended up finishing, maybe it was 23rd or 27th overall. I don't know. It wasn't any, I mean, again, you make it to Loretta's, you got to be proud to be there, but it wasn't what I expected. And honestly, anybody going to Loretta's wants to win, of course. So you only have one winner. But no, it was frustrating because then like a girl that I raced, like a month or two after Loretta's at Washougal, she went on her little bike and she got 3rd overall. And then a month later, I beat her at Washougal by like 30 plus seconds. And I was like, well, that wasn't the right choice. Because it didn't help my confidence is really what it was. It was like, you know, when you're constantly the underdog, it's hard to build that confidence. So like the very next year, I was too old. We got rid of my 150 and I was too old to race it. And then they changed the rule back that you could race both classes. So it was like, you know, kind of like, I don't know, it was frustrating. It was bittersweet because I loved my 150 and I rode it well. But I'm glad I got on the 250 when I did, because honestly, I didn't really get much bigger. So it ended up being a benefit to learn how to ride it. But yeah, no, the first year at Loretta's was, it was cool to be there, but it was disappointing as far as the results in the ride. I definitely needed to step it up is what I realized after that, you know?
Same, like I thought, like I qualified and I was feeling pretty good about Loretta's, but then when I got there, I was like way in the back. I'm like, how fast are these kids? And I was just feeling so confident because I won the series and just got there and I blew my doors off. Like I was like, whoa. You're
like, am I slow or is I'm just not doing the right thing? I mean, but that's just it. It's not even, you know, some of these kids, they have confidence. They just have different terrains. I mean, and sometimes it's not even that you're not good enough, but if you don't believe it, like a lot of these kids, they grow up going every year or like, you know, they're always at the top of their class, which is what I was talking about. You know, it doesn't mean that you don't have the skill set or the ability to do it, but it's like, it's overwhelming. Sometimes you show up to these races and you're like, man, I feel like I've been working hard. If you've been working hard and you know, obviously if you show up to a race and you're like, oh, I think there was more I could do, then you can't really do anything but slap yourself. But I mean, no, it is hard because like sometimes you show up to these races and like nowadays, like the Loretta's I used to race on, like when I went, I think for the first time in 2010, it is not what it is now. Like they have made it way rougher and way more rutted in my opinion. I feel like it used to be a little more wide open and hard packed back then. I mean, it was still kind of same layout, but the, like it wasn't as disked and rutted where you're like in slot car tracks, you know what I mean? So it does favor certain riders more than others, you know, which is normal. You're probably not going to be good at every single terrain as good as maybe this guy or this guy. Like you have a certain terrain you're better at, or, you know, maybe it's just not your week.
I know when Logan went in 22, you know, he was at the top of his class and we really had high hopes. I thought, okay, you know, this should be pretty good. I was kind of expecting maybe in the teens, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think he was probably kind of thinking the same thing. And I think you were 28th or 29th.
Yeah.
Something overall. And it was a huge eye opener. Yeah. And I remember, you know, he was kind of deflated and bummed out and thinking, wow, you know?
Yeah.
And we went and talked to Chance Hymas over there and Chance looks at him and he goes, dude, this is like the most unreal, gnarliest track you're ever going to ride. So relax and, you know, just understand like this is probably like the worst track you're probably ever going to ride.
Yeah. Take it with a grain of salt, you know, like, I mean, there's a lot of guys you go look at and they're big time pros now and, you know, everyone wants their autograph and a lot of them, you know, they never did anything at Loretta's. I mean, some of them have and some of them are prodigies, but you know, you have a lot of guys that had really promising amateur careers and they are amazing riders. And I'm sure I can think of many different ones who now are struggling to get what they deserve or what they're worth because injuries happen or things happen. So it's like you can have a super established amateur who wins everything and then they go pro and just, you know, the cards don't align or things don't go their way, you know? So Loretta's, it's all in the moment, you know, I think it's just taking it, you know, step by step and not taking a race's value like it's everything. You know, I mean, you can always change. It really just comes down to what you do, you know, I think. And you know, if you're at a point where you're like, okay, I can step it up and be better, or man, this is everything I'm giving and it's just still not enough, you know, but only you know, like what you're doing because nobody sees what you do behind closed doors, you know? So everybody says they're working hard, but Well, what's your version of working hard,
Yeah. I don't know if everybody has the same thing, but I having been once, I tend to look at it now and go, yeah, relax, enjoy your first time.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't place where you thought you were going to place, relax.
Yeah.
Now you know what you need to do. Now you know if you should even go back. I mean, you've got to be pretty serious, and it's a good gauge that first time, but don't let that first time
defeat you.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, like the fact that you make it. I mean, there's so many people that try their whole life and they never can make it. So I mean, to make it is a huge accomplishment, But as racers and the racers that want to win, which is pretty much I think every real racer,
right?
Again, there can only be one guy that's winning, and I always say like even the guys on TV, like. You're like, oh man, that guy's getting 40th out there. Okay, yeah, but like it still took so many different. I mean, there's so many guys that are even trying to qualify to get that 40th overall position. And again, nobody wants to be that guy, but you have to like take it one step at a time and appreciate the steps to the process, And yeah. I mean, that's just what it is,
And in our initial conversation, you'd been there 11 times, and you had some really cool experiences. So I don't know where to pepper this in, but do you want to let us geek out a little bit on a name? You were telling us you and Hayden Deegan used to kind of hang out and be buddies there.
Yeah, no, I've been blessed to have certain people in my life, and we know the Deegans well. They've always been very good to us. We kind of met them through the Hawkins and just the Thor family way back when. But no, I mean just good people. It's crazy how fast life goes by. And I mean, you always think that, okay, you see certain kids and you're like, all right, you're pretty gnarly, and then, of course the whole, oh, was he going to live up to the hype? But man, ever since anybody that knows Hayden knows, like, dude's real deal and he works real hard, I mean, regardless of what it is, he works real hard.
You can see how bad he wants it. And,
oh, yeah.
And you can see, he's so entertaining to watch. He's
100%.
definitely living up to it.
Some of the saves he had, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Great rider. And I mean, he's always been that way, and always very fierce, even when he was a little kid. But
you were saying he like doused you with some.
Yeah. Back in the day, I remember we were at Freestone. I don't remember what year it was. I think he was on 65s or whatever, but we were all parked again, the Hawkins and Deegans and all of us. And we were all parked over by one of the ponds. And I don't know, he ended up getting pond water, and he had thrown it on me. And I was like, you punk. Like, so like I went and I grabbed him and threw a bottle of water on him, and he was all pissed and squirming. And he's like, man, I got a moto coming up. And I just remember he's all pissed off. I'm like, well, at least it's not pond water, dude. Like, I got some nasty, dirty water. And like his dad's like, all right, Hayden, you're coming up. He's like, I'm soaking wet. He's like, oh, you got to go race. And I remember he raced. I'm pretty sure he won the moto. It's still soaking wet, but that was fun. It's crazy, like, just how life unfolds, and like, again, how God just brings you to the places he does. And I just feel super blessed. It's cool because you can always learn from so many different people, and it's cool to hear people's perspectives because, take it or leave it, but that's how you get better in life. You're not born with all the answers.
Yeah.
So it's nice when you have people that have been there, done that. You can always try to learn from those people and just hear what they have to say and respect it, but no, really blessed to be in the position I have been. And I have a lot of good friends in high places, I guess. But I mean, I don't really look at it like that. I more just look at it like, I don't know, God put them in my life, and I'm super happy about it. It's cool. And they've been good friends to me. And regardless of the fame, the people that I have met, it seems like they have stayed real. I think that's what matters most, because I've known a lot of different people, but not all of them choose to remember me, I guess. That's all good. I get it, but they're a family that has, and so has Talon. I was referencing Hayden and Talon, and they were kind of a duo because, I grew up with both of them, and Talon and the Hawkins, again, equally great family, always have been, genuine people. So regardless of whatever happens, social media or whatever, like on a personal level, I just think, good people.
One thing that really strikes me as we're talking in our initial conversation, and even in this, that you seem to be referencing God and your faith a lot. And I think that's really cool. I feel like the industry at large kind of, and maybe the media side of the industry kind of shies away from politics or spirituality and stuff like that. So it's really kind of refreshing, I think, in my opinion, to see somebody that is bold about speaking about their faith and stuff like. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, maybe when I was younger, I wouldn't have, but I feel like it's more because I'm playing into the politics, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, if God is the biggest turning point of why someone's not going to want to be around you or not, then that's probably their problem more than it is mine or your. I believe in God. If you don't believe in God, totally cool. No worries. I'll still be your friend and treat you equal opportunity. I don't like people that are mean to me or talk behind my back, but faith is a choice, that's totally cool. But I have reasons why I believe the way I do. And I just think like for a long time, like I have such a ability in a way to touch certain people or be able to communicate with certain people. And I want them to know, what I believe, why I am the way I am and why I have the gifts I do. I don't think it's just because I'm awesome. I think God created me that way. And I spend a lot of time praying that he will allow me to help create a path for the next generation and be an inspiration and be able to do something that I love and have a passion for why I'm here on this earth. A lot of people spend a lot of time living their life doing something they don't even like or love. And then, tomorrow's never promised. So, you spend all this time making all this money or whatever for what? Like I've had a lot of people pass unexpectedly. And I just feel like that's taught me, to be grateful, to be able to, I guess, put myself out of this world and all the drama that's in it to give a moment to God because I feel like giving me everything I have. And every time I've prayed for something, a sign or, like to show me, like he makes it real in my face, that I'm here, I hear you. And he's given me some really cool signs, different memory stories, just that, to me, it's not a coincidence. When you're thinking in your head and you're speaking out loud and it happens, like there's something to that, you can call it a coincidence, but I don't. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your sister?
Yeah. So, well, for those who don't know, I had a sister and she was born with a rare genetic disorder. She was born when I was 10 and we were about almost 11 years apart because the next month I turned 11. But anyways, I had always wanted a sibling and God gave me a very unique sibling. And we didn't know she was actually what she had until she was almost 2 years old because it was a really rare disorder at the time. And I don't think, I haven't looked into it as of lately, so don't hold me to it, but I don't think they've found a cure for it. I don't even know if they know what causes it, but boys can't have it. Only girls can.
Do you know what it's called?
It's called Rett. It's RHETT syndrome. And basically it's where, different lobes of the brain, I guess there's like 4 lobes or whatever, and it's where certain ones are affected. And basically, like for my sister, she was unable to talk and like a lot of them never walk. You do like these mannerisms, like kind of like clapping your hands or spitting, stuff like that. But she did get to a point where she was able to communicate a lot with the eyes and like touch and like certain noises. Like you could tell she was trying as she got older, but it really changed my life because, you grow up with a sibling that has a disability and like, I don't know, it's just different, But no, she passed away when I was, I don't know how old I was at this point, but it was in 2016 and she passed away 7 days before Loretta's. And again, like I told you guys, we have same mom, different dad. She ended up drowning in a bathtub with her under her dad's supervision. I don't know. Oh gosh. It was a really big thing, but again, because she was handicapped, they did an investigation and whatnot. Anyways, it was a long road, but again, out of it, I know, I guess to somebody that maybe doesn't believe in God or doesn't understand it, like God brought the good out of a bad situation, a terrible situation. And like, honestly, I think it ended up being a blessing. I see where the world's at now. I don't know really what it would have done for her to be here because I feel like it would have been more of a danger. And in my opinion, she's in heaven watching from above. So I think I got her for those years to teach me what I needed to know and see that I couldn't before. But no, she changed my life, and I do pretty much everything I do with her in the back of my mind. So, but yeah.
So did you have to learn sign language?
No, so for her, she didn't. I couldn't tell you exactly what she was thinking, but it wasn't so much a sign language thing. She just was unable to communicate. I mean, it basically, because of her condition, once we found out what was wrong, actually my mom found out what was wrong. So we had taken her to a lot of doctors for the first year or two of her life because we didn't really notice anything was wrong until she started like getting to the age where you should be able to say certain words and do certain things. And she did start doing them, but then it was like a light switch. One day she woke up and stopped being able to do things she could do the day before. And it was like, what's going on? You know, it was weird. And anyways, though, my mom, when she started working for Wells Fargo, she had a computer. She'd stay up all night and she'd research. Well, she found a case in Australia, and she was reading like forums or whatever they're called, you know, where people get on and they blog and talk about what's going on. Well, they got on and she was like, she told the doctors to test my sister for this condition, and they laughed at her. They're like, no, you're not a doctor. My mom's like, we're paying the money anyways, just test her. And it ended up being what was wrong.
Wow.
So that was kind of special too, just in a way that my mom was the one who really kind of like, I'm not going to say she diagnosed her, but like she's the one who did the research, because nobody else could figure it out. They thought she maybe had like Down syndrome, but they didn't think that because usually that's a visual thing. Like she looked normal. So like people would, like a lot of the time her whole life, like she was very, she couldn't say words. So she'd yell, or she'd be like, bah, you know, like she'd make different noises. So when we'd go grocery shopping, people would be like, control your kid, because she'd look like, and my mom would just light them up. She'd be like, listen, you don't know. So like, but again, all these things growing up, I mean, some of it was before motocross. I mean, I didn't have motocross when my sister was born. I rode dirt bikes, but I didn't race. I didn't know anything about it. So she changed my life. I mean, she changed my life in so many ways. I was a punk ass kid, you know what I mean? And I said things I shouldn't, and I did things I shouldn't. Like, you have someone like that put in your life and then taken away, and it just changes everything, you know?
Sounds like that was a pretty big ingredient in your spirituality then.
It absolutely was. That, cool. And my mom's recovery from her drug issues. I mean, cool story with that too. But no, a lot of that kind of stuff, like where it's like it's bigger than racing. Obviously, I've had plenty of things happen in racing as well. But no, a lot of my faith came from long before that, you know?
So I saw on your Instagram that you went to Blake Bagot's El Chupacabra track. How was that?
Oh man, that was sick. It was a super cool experience. Yeah, we know the Bagots, or we used to know them more so. I mean, we still know them, but don't stay in a whole lot of contact. But another great family. And yeah, we were going out to Mini O's that year, and we had got a hold of them, and Keely and Blake and Leanne and all them. And anyways, we got it all hooked up, and they invited us out and let us come out for 3 days. And it was super cool. The track was gnarly, super upscaled. I mean, like that was probably one of the hardest tracks that I've ever rode, because obviously Blake designed it to be that way. But I remember showing up and he's like, just take it easy. Cause like I didn't know Blake super well. I mean, I knew him because we would spend time with the family sometimes, but I honestly knew his sister Bailey better because we were friends growing up. And, anyways, long story short, so he's like, just kind of take it easy out there, like, because the track is gnarly. And I remember him telling me, he's like, some of the factory lights bikes have a hard time, like, clearing some of these jumps, especially that triple. Because I remember telling him, I'm like, I want to do that triple. I'm like, I want to do that. And he's like, yeah, just be careful. He's probably thinking, gosh, I don't want to have this girl go to the hospital on my watch, you know, like, so. Anyways,
you seem like the type of person you probably don't want to say that to.
Yeah, no.
Because it's going to happen.
You know what? I remember thinking, and then Cody, you know, my boyfriend, he's over here, like, we were like by ourselves. He's like, you're going to hit that. I know you will. You'll hit that. And I like looked at him, I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen right now. Like, so anyways, we rode and like, I got all the obstacles down pretty quick, except that triple. And I remember thinking, like, it was big. I remember Blake telling me it's probably like 150 feet. Like, he's like, you can land on it on the downslope in different spots, so you could technically go longer or shorter. But like to the actual landing, I want to say, like, I don't remember what he said it was, but it was huge. I remember they measured it, like it was the big one out there, you know? And anyways, I mean, I think on day 2, Brian and Hayden and the Hawkins, they all came out. So they came to ride with me. And I remember Hayden was on 65s at the time, and he was wanting to do all these big jumps, you know, because he's a sender. And Brian's like, bro, just chill out. We got mini O's coming up, you know, like
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, like we just drove all this way, just chill out a little bit, you know. But and then Talon, same thing. Like they're just both chomping at the bit. They're probably like, oh, this girl out here, I want to come hit this stuff, you know. Like they were probably good enough to do it, but the bikes, I don't know if they would. I mean, some of the jumps were big, and then it was so sandy. I remember it was so sandy. That was the problem. Like it would rob your speed. So like I looped it a few times, and I did double the triple. And I was like, I remember I doubled it a few times, and then I told him, okay. And he's all like, this is it. And like he got his camera out, and like I clicked fourth, I want to say. And like, dude, it was such a long straight, because the corner, I mean, it was a hot minute, and like, dude, it was like 3.5 or 4 seconds of airtime. It was huge. And it just felt like the bike went off the lip, and you're just like, you don't hear anything. And then all of a sudden you just hear it. And then like after that, I did it once, I did like 10 more times. And like I could see from halfway across the property, like Blake and I want to say John and Tom, which is his dad. And at the time, I want to say it was his practice bike mechanic. And they were all screaming from across the facility with their arms up. Yeah, that was sick.
Like this? I think this is the right button.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. And it was sick. And he was super impressed. And it was cool, man. It was cool to be able to do that, you know, just for me. And then to hear what they had to say, like, it was cool, you know, it was real deal. He's like, dude, that was a gnarly jump. And it took me 3 days. And a few of the other guys, I won't say their names, but they're respected riders. And he had told me it took them like 3 weeks to hit that jump. And you just hit it in 3 days. And I was on cloud 9. I'm not going to lie. I was like, that's pretty cool. Blake Bagot just told me that. So
serious. What a cool story.
It was really cool, you know, and I to this day, it's probably one of the coolest tracks I've ever rode. I'm not sure if he still has it or not. I know they were kind of doing some stuff, but I
was going to ask you, because I looked it up, and it said right about that time he was trying to sell it, and I didn't know if he still had it or not.
I believe, again, don't hold me to it. I don't know. Now I'm just guessing, you know, but I think they might have got rid of it. I'm not sure, but either way, it was such a beautiful piece of property, such an awesome track. It was super cool, and what they had going out there. I mean, again, another cool family, really like all involved, you know, all in it to win it, you know, but no, that was definitely a cool experience.
Looks like he's got actually a little cool like place to even stay at the track or something, like a nice little hideout in there. Or was it just like kind of a hang out and snack kitchen or what?
At the time when we went out there, I don't know. He didn't have a whole lot going yet out there. Like I want to say like he had like a little storage unit and his trailer, because they were kind of building on the property. But and again, I'm just talking, I don't know. But I think it was more the beginning stages. Like they had got the track done, they had dug the dirt, but they were still in the early stages, because I want to say that, like what you said, they got a bunch more stuff up. But that was long after I had already come and gone. So it wasn't super developed as far as buildings being up when I went there.
And you did that to get prepped for Mini-O's.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have really said that was prepping for Mini-O's at that point. That was more like just fun and, you know, because I mean, realistically, I don't know that it was really smart to be focusing on a big jump right before a race. But again, like, it's who I am. Like, you know, I wanted to show up and do everything because I felt like I was capable of doing it. And I'm somebody who, like, if I'm capable of doing it, even if it's kind of scary, like, I really want to do it. Otherwise, it's really going to bug me later, you know? So, no, I was really happy I did that because I never got the opportunity to do it again. So it was definitely something I don't regret.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So you were a trainer, right?
Am I a trainer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now in 2019, well, actually in 2018, I went to South Africa to go race. And one of the things was when I went over there, they're like, all right, we're going to host a training class. And I'm like, I don't know. Because if I'm being real, like as a racer, you know, you don't really want to share your secrets or whatever. You get in a certain mindset, you know. I was like, I don't want to do this. But I'm like, I'm going over there. I'm going to need to do it because that's the right thing to do. So anyways, I did it. And I really ended up liking it. I actually thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed the kids. And it was way different than I thought it was going to be. And honestly, I realized, like, it doesn't matter because, like, I'm me. Like, you know, what I do is to me. If I teach somebody else to do it and it works for them too, then great. That's super cool. And it made me feel good because I was helping other people, you know? And so in 2019, I was kind of going through a time where I wouldn't really want to race. Like, I don't know, I was burnt out. You know, I just was like, man, it's just, I don't have the drive and passion to do this right now. But I was really scared to like start training kids, especially in California, because like a lot of people train people in California. And I just was, I guess, worried about what other people were going to think of me, especially because I'm a girl. So, I mean, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it does. But I know there's people out there that, you know, have their opinions. But it ended up being really cool. And it ended up being something that I really needed. And actually, so Ethan Webb, which he races the RMX series. So he was actually my very, very first student in the United States. And his parents had reached out to me on Instagram and they're like, yeah, we live in Wyoming and we're coming out for a vacation. Would you train our son? And I was like, okay, you know, like this is going to happen because I had posted on Instagram and they got back to me. I was like, all right. So they came out and dude, it was so cool. It was one of the best 2 weeks ever. Ethan's such a good kid. He was such a hard worker and he just put all his faith in me. And I was like, man, this is what I like. And he made a ton of progress in the 2 weeks he came out. And anyways, it ended up being something that was really good for me. And so in 2019, I didn't really race. I didn't do anything. I just trained kids. And if it wasn't for Ethan, I think I was at a point where I was kind of over it. And like he re-sparked everything because he was just a little beginner at the time. You know, he was 11 years old and he's like, I just want to know what it takes. So like I just ran him through what I did. And at first, like he was like, man, this is hard. But as time and the years went on, man, I mean, it was really cool. It was really rewarding. And so, yeah.
That's cool to hear about that. Cause as I was going through your Instagram and I was doing a little show prep and I'm like looking back and I'm like, oh, there's Ethan. I don't think we've ever actually officially met Ethan, but we're aware of him. We've seen him around and I was like, oh, okay, you know, and then it looked like you guys were traveling together at some point and racing together and stuff like that. And I was like, I wonder if Ethan was like one of her students. So
he absolutely was. And it was crazy because back when I met him, he was just on a little small wheel 85. And I remember him actually telling me about the RMX series and like, you know, about Mesquite actually. Cause I remembered when I was younger going there and I was like, I hate that track. Like I was like, I suck there, you know? And he's like, well, it's gnarly now. And I remember thinking, cause I had just met them and he was in like, you know, he was younger and not, you know, not just getting started, but he was still like, you know, whatever at that level. I'm like, well, maybe he just thinks it's gnarly, you know, maybe we'll have to give this a try. So we went out there, hung out with them and I was like, damn, dude. I was like, he ain't lying. Like, this is real deal. And so, but it was cool because, you know, as time went on, like his parents would send me, you know, videos and he'd call me and he's like, I Holeshot it. Or like, you know, I got my first top 10 in the mini senior class. And like, it was super cool. It was all really paying off. And then like, he kind of helped me get my name out there. And then I ended up meeting Kaysen Bentoncourt and it kind of went from there. And then Kaysen was my first little guy. And then like I got another student, Luke Yepez, and then it all just kind of went from there. And then more kids came to me and it was super cool. So I kind of became like, I guess, the little bike trainer. It's not really what I like specifically worked on, but it's just kind of how it came to be after Ethan. And no, it was cool though. I've trained a lot of different people, old, young, and it's been super cool. I mean, it's just cool to connect with a rider and be able to watch them and then tell them to fix something and have them do it successfully and then be like, come back and be like, oh my gosh, I felt what you're talking about, you know? And like, that's what I do it for, you know? And, but yeah, no, in 2020 when COVID broke out, it was like, or whatever, everything got shut down and whatnot. I'm like, we had just got a motorhome and I'm like, you know what? After training all the kids and training Ethan, like I was like, it made me have more respect for my boyfriend and the people that are there every day with me, that I'm not always easy, you know, and they believe in me and try, but I wasn't giving my full effort. Cause like I realized when I started training the kids, I'm like, if I told them to do something and they didn't listen, I'd be like, go home. Like, why are you here if you're not going to at least try, you know? And that's what I was doing. And I'm like, so in 2020, I decided, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to tell them no to anything. And I'm just going to do my motos and I'm going to do what's right. And we'll see if it gets better. And it did because, you know, I mean, it got better. So, and then after that, it made me really respect the people in my corner more. And I had ended up having my best year. And I went on in 20 and 21 to be able to accomplish doing like 25, 30-minute motos, which I never could do because I'd always get arm pump. And I was like, man, am I just cursed or what? Like, but you just have to learn how to suffer a little more, you know? And you keep going. It'll get better, you know? You just Have to.
Have you had any challenges with your business, like with a kid or something?
I mean, yes and no. Not so much kids. I mean, maybe a few parents, but not really. I mean, honestly, most of the people that I've had have been super cool. Everybody's pretty upfront. I mean, there's been kids where like I'll train them and then I don't see them again, where I'm like, all right, clearly we didn't click. But I mean, that's to be expected, you know, and I speak the way I speak. I'm not going to be able to connect with every kid, but I do like to think that majority of the kids I train, like they come back and the parents are so grateful, and the kids that I work with, they almost feel like my kids, you know, like, I mean, and they're so happy to see me and they call me Coach Brook, and they all get super excited when I'm racing and stuff. Like they think I'm number one, you know? So
that's awesome.
It's a cool feeling, but no, not too bad. Most of the parents have been pretty mellow, you know. I haven't had too much drama, you know, but I also try to tell them, like, if you want to go to a different trainer, do that, you know.
Now, do you do this under, does your business have a name, or do you just do it under your Brookie Whip? Or
it's more just on my Instagram. Gotcha. And honestly, like, it was a lot easier when we were living in California. It's been a little more challenging out here, which I do want to start doing some stuff, but there's more limited tracks. And during the week, like, you know, there's not a whole lot of places for us to go.
Boy, don't we know it.
But it's all good, you know, like, and when I go back out to California, like, I'll be out there quite a bit during the summertime. I host a ton of classes, and a lot of my kids that I used to work with will come back, you know, even if they, you know, they'll jump back in and stuff. So it all works out, you know.
So you had 3 bike numbers, right?
Yep.
How'd you choose between like the 183 and 19? Like, why were you switching between them?
Okay, so I already told you the story behind 13. Well, 19, I actually, in 2018, I think, I kept losing my number to somebody else at Loretta's. So I was like, I got to come up with a different number, and I want it to be meaningful. And my sister was born on January 19th, so I chose 19. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to stick with 19, because and then I'll tell you about 183, but I stuck with 19 because I feel like ever since I started, like, in 2020, I kind of became a new rider, you know, like I had different morals and things I was focusing on. And I felt like 13 was the old me, 19's the new me. And it represents something that I care more about anyways. 13 was just because that's when I started racing, you know. 19 holds a purpose. And then 183, the reason I sometimes run 183 is because sometimes people get number 19 and I have to have a different number. But actually in 2014, when I won Mammoth, somebody had taken my number 13, same story. But so I had to choose a different number. Well, my boyfriend, his race number used to be number 18 and mine was 13. So we basically put the numbers together and made 183. And that's how we got it. And then I ended up winning the championship at Mammoth that year. And so nice. I was like, oh, that's my number. and it just happened to be in 22 when I went back to Mini O's, somebody took my number again. So I ran 183, and it was super weird because that race, that whole week there, that was like the best I think I've ever rode at a national. I got a lot of compliments that week. I don't usually get that. So it was really cool. It was special. And then in 23, it wasn't that good of a week, but it's not the number. It was just what I was doing, I think. But that's how I got the numbers.
Now, you said in 19, I wanted to ask you about that. You said in 19, you were kind of going through, I guess, kind of a metamorphosis. Like what was prompting the change? What was going on with you?
Honestly, like, I started racing in 2009, and I mean, I really never stopped. I mean, yeah, there's injuries and life happens, but like, I tried to be at the races as much as I could. And by 2014, we were basically like considered like full national because we did all the 5 major nationals, you know, they had. And I was with Monster and Thor, and I was getting more sponsors and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think I didn't have all the people in my corner to help, which not everybody does, but some people are blessed with having more knowledgeable people that can help direct you. And to be honest with you, it was just me and Cody. You know, we moved down to California at 18 years old, with no family. It was just us. And it was really hard because I felt like we spent as much time as we could doing what we knew was right. But as you go on, you learn more and more information. And I just think I'd go to the races, I'd get good starts. I had speed, but I just couldn't keep the speed, and it just started to get to the point where I was like, I was so close to winning the championship, and then something would happen. And something would happen. And then it got to the point where the next generation was coming up. Now my generation's out of it. And now the next generation. And then these people are beating me. And it was like, it just kept feeling like I was constantly not good enough. And now looking back, I don't think I was doing the work that I needed to do to be able to get that version of myself. But I didn't know that. So I was just like, man, why am I even doing this, And that's kind of what made me be like, all right, 2019, I'm not wasting money if I don't know what I want. And so that's when I kind of stepped back. And when I stepped back and took that year off and helped everybody else, I just realized like I really missed it. I'm like, man, like it's good helping other people and I love it, but like, why don't I just give myself this kind of commitment, like what, that's all I've kind of been. Maybe I have the talent, but you just got to, put in the work. And I learned what the work looked like. And then, like I said, by 2020, I had a better version of knowing what I needed to do to be at that level. And by 22, I felt like it was kind of a building block all those years, like 2021, 22, like it all led up to that. But like I said, like I think to this day, my best race was definitely that, and I did some things that were really cool, like on my Instagram, the Holeshot from the outside gate, like things that were like, I worked to be able to do that, So, and then by 23, I kind of tried to take the momentum from that race and like transfer over, which it was going good. And then by March of 23, my grandpa was getting really sick. And I mean, he's like a father to me in a way. Like they were a big part of my life growing up. So like kind of another one of those things where it's like, you're at a high and then you have a low, and then it was bike problems and my grandpa's passing and like moving from California after 10 years to Mesquite, which is all these things is just hard, and, but it's good. It's good. I'm at a point now where I feel like we've kind of had the hard years again. And that was 23 and 24. I switched to Cowie last year. It was good, but a lot to learn after being on Hondas for 14 years, but no, ultimately just being burnt out, and not having the love for it. And if you're not willing to die out there and then be okay with it, then I don't even know why you're out there, because, it's very dangerous. And I don't mean to put it that bluntly, but it's like, it's your life.
It really is.
And I think it's important that if I'm going to be on the bike, it's what I want to be doing. And so I just had to make sure of that.
Well, it's cool to hear that story. The reason I kind of wanted to dig into that is, Logan went through a weird little burnout in at the end of 22 and decided he wanted to stop at the very first part of 23, and he's been off 2 years. This is his first series back, so it's interesting to hear, somebody else that kind of went through that wandering in the wilderness period. Like, what are we doing? Because we kind of did it, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that interesting to hear her?
Yeah.
Describe
like I've never really talked to other racers that have had like a break from motocross. Like when they start, they've never taken a break, but
yeah,
it's been kind of cool to hear your story, because I've actually
it's relatable.
Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, I think anybody would be telling you a lie if they said, or maybe they haven't been doing it long enough or in a certain way that's put them in that position. I mean, if you have a kid that only gets to ride so often and it's a complete privilege, then maybe you're not going to find that burnout as much because you're not doing it all the time. But when you're on a certain program and it becomes your job, just like anything, you got to keep the reason why you started, that the main reason why you do it. And that's because you did it because it was fun, and anybody that says any otherwise is lying, because, nobody just sees a dangerous sport and goes, well, I just want to do that. It's the addiction to loving the thrill of it and the feeling of hitting a jump or throwing a whip or hitting a really good rut, and so, no, I think getting burnt out is honestly, it's normal. I mean, I don't think people talk about it very much, but keeping your dreams alive is not easy. Like a dream, just because it's something you dream of doesn't mean that it's easy to keep it at the front of everything you do, And I mean, sometimes it's good to step away. Like, I don't mean to say like, oh, just walk away, but sometimes it's good to step away if you need that, because it'll tell you what you really want. You'll know right away. I mean, maybe not right away, but in time, you'll know like, hey, am I just thinking about this stuff all the time? Like, do I feel like I'm missing a part of me when I'm not doing this? Or am I kind of okay with it being gone? And that's okay. Like I tell some of the kids that I work with all the time, I'm like, hey, listen, if you don't want to do this no more, it's all good. I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to be your friend. I'll still be Coach Brook. But if it's not what you're passionate about, then find what you are, because that's what God designed us to do. You know, like he's not putting these things in your path for you to be like, oh, I just hate it.
Right.
Like if you're hating something you're doing all the time, maybe that's your sign to like try something different.
Like it was also hard when I stopped, because like I'd come here and my friends would like always come to my house, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I have a race coming up, I can't hang out. So like, and then like all my friends, like I wanted to spend time with my friends sometimes, because every weekend I was just at a track training, riding, and then during the week just put in the work still. Yeah. I mean,
difficult to find balance, I think.
100%. And but that's just it, what you said, balance. I mean, it's so crucial. And I think I was just talking about this, you know, to one of my friends. I'm like, listen, we're not like cookie cutters. And it's like, you go to certain places or certain environments where it is put out that way. Like, oh, you know, especially, I mean, in any sport, like, but it's just like school or anything else, or when you're learning a job, like you could have this person that's good at this, but they suck at this or that, you know, like at the end of the day, doing the things that just matter most to you is what, you know, what I think. And again, like finding the balance, because for you, like you're young, like you're only going to be 12 once. We're all only going to be our age once. Like you got to do the other things that if you're always thinking about them, is taking focus away from, you know, okay, when I'm riding, I'm thinking about wanting to be with my friends. Well, maybe that's your sign. Like, hey, this weekend, we're not going to ride. We're going to hang out with the friends, and that's okay. You know, like, but you have to be willing to accept that. And then if you're going to do that, then there's either, you know, cause and effect. Like, I mean, it's just whatever it is that's worth it to you. But if it's something that's important to you, that's okay. Because like, you don't have to be the workhorse that just goes out every weekend and every day and just, I don't know. I've never been like that. Like if you put me in an environment where we're doing the same thing every single day and we're not switching it up, I'm going to get bored of it. And I mean, some people are like, well, you just got to do it. But it's like, okay, that's fine. I'll do it. But we got to, then if I'm just going to do this program, then we've got to do something different. Like not in the program necessarily, but like, let's go airsoft, or let's go shoot guns, or let's go do something that makes it fun. Like doing something different, not just hard work all the time. You got to switch it up, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of that was on me, to be honest with you, because, you know, I mean, my child that I'm, you know, paying for all this for tells me, here's what I want to do. I want to be, you know, every kid says they want to go pro. Well, what they really mean is they want to be like that, you know, Chase Sexton or Jet Lawrence. They want to be on TV, I think is kind of, you know, what he was really saying. So it's like, as a dad, you're like, okay, well, you know, you start making plans, and okay, here's what the game plan is. And, you know, when he would want to, you know, like you say, like find balance, like, I don't, you know, I want to do something different this weekend. It's like, well, we can't. Right. We can't. You know,
we're committed.
Yeah. Like, dude, you know, like the program, you know, and it's, I would say it's been just as much of a learning experience for me to try and find that balance. So now that we're back, it's difficult still to try to, you know, find that balance, you know, because again, I go into planning mode and like, here's the plan, but I try to be a little bit more flexible now. Like, okay, you know, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want that burnout again. So we've got to find ways to keep that fire burning. Right? Yeah. Am I doing a better job now?
Yeah. Like it used to be like, I wanted to go hang out. You're like, nope, we got to go and do this. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to do that. But then like, eventually I just got burnt out. But like, I felt like our life for like those 2 years was so much better because I could actually have fun for once. But then I was doing jiu-jitsu and I just like went on that trip with Travis Pastrana and I was just like, yeah. And I just came back. I'm like, I want to get back into it. Like he lit my fire again.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I really like Travis Pastrana. One of my favorite movies when I was your age actually was the 199 story or lives. I think it's 199 lives of Travis Pastrana. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. The good old.
all the pictures. He's doing it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the man. No, I admire it, but but again, like, you know, you brought yourself, or not you, but God, or, you know, whoever, they brought you back to it. You know, I mean, he brought you back to it. Maybe that's your sign. Like, hey, maybe I want to do it. But I mean,
and we're kind of pivoting here. You know, we got this going, which is fun and interesting for us. And, because he does race and he's done it for a while, we actually have a little bit of knowledge in the space, I guess, so, this is kind of a cool offshoot of that whole thing. So, yeah.
Well, it's like fun. A different outlet too, to totally be able to like recap on something you're passionate about. Super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps. I think it helps break up the monotony.
It does, yeah. A little, and we're natural introverts. At least I am, and I think my wife is. So this is really a cool way to get to know more people and broaden our horizons and stuff like that. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's good though. And again, now just to be clear, like I'm not saying like it's not good to have discipline, but I do think like for you, again, you're like, oh, Dad said no, we got to go ride. Okay, well now, I mean, in a way, you can't always only ride when you want to. But at the same time, if you're going out there with no intention, then you're kind of doing the same thing anyways. Because it's like at that point, you're just going through the motions because you're told to do it. There's got to be passion behind what you do, So, I mean, I don't know. Some people could ride all day and be happy. I mean, I was that way when I was little, but then I got a little older. I'm like, I don't know. I would like to do this, and still ride, So, no, I get it.
Even like when I took the break, my dad's like, "You want to go ride?" I'm like, "No." Yeah. Like I just wanted to like completely let it go for.
Yeah, he really kind of disconnected for a while.
Yeah, I mean it happens, I think it would be if you're at that point, then it's probably just because you've also been at that level. You get to a certain level in racing, it gets so competitive and it's draining. It's draining for the family, it's draining for the rider, it's financially super expensive. So I think. Like what you were talking about as a dad or a mechanic, like I know exactly what you're talking about because like in my situation, it's not my dad anymore, but Cody, it's the same thing. Like he's like, well, how bad do you want it? You got to be disciplined, you got to, and it's true, you do. But at the same time, again, like we talked about, finding the balance and really being able to just have love for what you're doing to keep you going. Because at the end of the day, the guys that you see on TV like Tomac and I think Roxon and all those guys, like, you can't think that they're not doing it because they don't love it. They love it. That's why when you talk to people like, or that they interview RV or Carmichael, they're like, my career was so much shorter because I just didn't love it anymore. I was burnt out.
Yeah.
And not those guys. I mean, somehow they've found a way to re-spark it. And especially after some gnarly injuries that at the ages they're at, it's not like, not a spring chicken. Like they don't bounce back just like super easy like the guys that are still a little younger, like Jet or those guys, So I think that people have put more work into finding a way to try to keep the passion alive, and everybody does that different because like what we said, not cookie cutter, everybody's different. So even if the guy to your right goes, no, you're not doing it right. Well, how do you know? Like, I mean, to a certain degree.
Do you want to, I'd like to hear more about like some of your nationals, like the Baja Brawl and stuff like that. Do you want to like kind of pivot into that? And
give me like try to keep the questions like on a specific, because I go all over the place and then I lose the question that we're on. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to stay on topic, but there goes my pop-up thought. So ask away.
Oh, I think it's been a lot of great content. So I think it's going to be great. And
you'll be able to edit it in where I'm not.
I will, but I think that, the podcast really kind of allows, one of the things that I've discovered about the podcast is that, when you start trying to research somebody, and I don't even care if it's like somebody like Eli Tomac that is in the spotlight constantly, there's not any real information about him.
Right. Not personal stuff that actually like matters that you don't already know.
Yeah. It's all super superficial. It's race results and it's like, and there's a story behind every racer. And so I think that that's going to be a really cool part about the podcast with you is that, we do get a lot of background and a lot of deeper information, you know what I mean? In addition to the stats.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, feel free. Racing, my life, like I'm really open to all of it. And honestly, like I want to help you guys build and you're helping me get my name out there. So, I mean, like, and I like people knowing my story because a lot of people don't even know who I am. They think they know who I am, but they don't really know anything about me.
Yeah. Can you tell us some of your most proud achievements or your proudest nationals, the ones that really stand out? Can you list a few of them?
Yeah. So I mean, Mammoth was a really cool race to win, but it wasn't the way I wanted to win it. Is that so?
Tell us about that.
So that was the first major national. And actually to this day, I think the only major national I've actually ever won. But the first 2 years I went up to Mammoth, the first year I got sick. Second year I tore my ACL. And the third year I won. I was racing against, people that others might know is like Brandy Richards and Hannah Hodges. At the time, she was still on the MAV TV, like Super Mini. So like, I'm dating myself going back a little bit, but no, it was like in the first moto, I got second, which was all right. I was all right with that. Like I got a good start and I got second, kind of rode my race, whatever. But, Brandy had beat me. And then in the second moto, I got second again. And I want to say, oh man, this goes so far back. Now I have to try to remember. But I think what it was is I got a good start in the second moto and they red flagged the race, I want to say. And I was stressing out because like, I was like, dude, I just put myself in such a good position. I didn't want to have to start again. Mm-hmm. And I did the restart and I misshifted off the start. And I don't know if you've ever been to Mammoth or if at the very least you've seen the start. Yeah. If you misshift, you are done because it's such a
uphill, right?
Yeah, like so I came into the corner of the top of the hill and like last, I started making a lot of passes and I was able to pass like pretty quickly up to the front part of the field, but the girls that are at the very front, they were going a little, some of them were going faster than me, so it was like I really needed to get there. And I swear, you would talk about a God thing. I was panicking because I was like, oh my gosh, I have a chance to win the championship. But it really didn't set in until I ended up passing Brandy, and Brandy was like riding really slow on the side of the track and she was holding her knee. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think she hurt herself. But I also knew that like she won the first moto. So now I'm like, if I can get to the front of the field, like I'll win because like she's clearly hurt. And I'm like, so then all of a sudden I started to like panic more. And I swear, I just kept riding, and in the very first lap, like 3 or 4 people that I needed to get past flew off the track, crashed in front of me. Like everything that had to happen happened, so much so that when I'm in the middle of my race panicking, I was like, dude, the only way this could even happen if this was like, I was meant to win this. God wants me to win this. So I ended up getting into second by the first lap. We came around and everybody had flown off or got hurt or whatever happened. And like the only person that was actually still left in front of me was Hannah. And she was on a Super Mini. And she ended up beating me. But I also knew I didn't have to beat her to win, which I don't know that I was going to beat her in that moto anyways, to be honest. I think she was just gone and she was pretty fast, In the first moto, she had got stuck behind people and couldn't make the passes, so she had got 5th. Oh. So she went 5-1 and I went 2-2 and I won the championship, which was super cool. I guess you still have to put yourself in the position to do it. Yeah. So, I don't want to take away from myself, but I did want to earn it more so, like being the person that showed up. I'm the fastest one there. Kind of like how any racer wants to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I still won, and
it's a really hard track to pass on too, isn't it?
It can be because there's predominantly kind of one fast line, and there's not a lot of ruts. Everybody knows it's a hard pack kind of like the only places like that you can make up the most time are the hills, and obviously the corners too. But it depends on how ballsy you are on the hills. If you're feeling confident, then that's a place you can make up time. But no, that was really cool. And honestly, we had our golden retriever at the time who was our baby. And that was the first national he did with us. And we took him down to the waterfall and got pictures with the championship and stuff. So, it was super special, but it just wasn't the way that I envisioned it, but I still did it. So it was very cool. Another accomplishment, I won Oak Hill, which, man, I don't even really remember much of that race, if I'm being honest. So, it was really cool. And I remember that they brought back the trophy that I really wanted because the year before they switched the trophy. Like, it was all about the trophy. I just wanted that cup. I was like, that's so cool. Yeah. But I ended up winning that one. And then I won AZ Open. And at Mini O's, I won the Olympiad Award. I didn't ever win, actually. I've never actually won motos. Nothing like that, but I somehow got the Olympiad Award, and that was kind of cool. And then I feel like I'm missing something. I don't have them written down. I should have been.
Baja Brawl recently, right?
That's the last one. So the Baja Brawl, that was the most recent one, and that was pretty cool because, I was still older, kind of like like the last championship I had, like the first championship I won was 2014. That one was 2022. So it kind of like, showed I'd been around for a minute. And no, it was cool. I think I made it a lot. Well, I didn't make it harder on myself. When we went to Baja, they mixed us. So they mixed us with the 250C 12 to 17 class. And it was a 3-moto format, thank God, because they dropped the 250C class before us. And the problem is that I started catching that class right off the first lap. So like at that race specifically, like in my opinion, like I was definitely the fastest in my women's class. Like I was going to win. And I won the first moto, but like I couldn't like jump some of the times because I'd come up on like 3 or 4 of the C riders and they wouldn't be jumping. And so in the second moto, I had like a 20-second lead. It was my best one because I got the Holeshot pretty much and got off to a good start. So I was able to really click away. Well, on the last lap, like half a lap to go, they have this like double step up thing. Like, and anyways, it's a blind landing. And the flagger left his post because there was a crash on the backside with 2 riders. And I think they had a Brett Downey safety flag. Like, it goes off, but it didn't go off yet. And I was already committed. And I jumped the jump. And I got in the midpoint of like the air and I saw the landing. And there was 2 riders' bikes that were laid out, like one to the right, one to the left. And basically I was going to have to try to thread the needle between their tires.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to happen. I landed and tried to get on the back of the bike and just like kind of wheelie over it. And it didn't work. I got the front end over it, but the rear hit their tires and it immediately sent me into like a massive endo. Oh. And so I just like crashed super bad, dude. And I just remember thinking like I barrel rolled. The bike was like the front end was going left and the bars were going right. So like when I got back on the bike, when I'd leaned to go left, the front tire was going right. So everything was off. And I actually almost still won the moto. Is that right? I got back up and the lead obviously depleted. And here she came. And as soon as I was swinging my leg back over the bike, I like kind of hit her on accident because I was like trying to get going. And we ended up battling it like for the last like half a lap. And she got it by a little bit, not much. And so we went into the moto. I went 1-2. She went 2-1. I was pissed, man. I was like, dude, that was my championship. And like, I literally had the biggest lead out of all the motos. And that happens because of a different class. Yeah. So like I told them, I was like, you're really lucky I didn't get hurt. Like, cause it was a really bad crash. Like I definitely gained some fans that were sitting over there drinking and like, and I tucked my hair. So they probably didn't even know I was a chick. And anyways, so I ended up winning the last moto and it was all good. And I won my championship, but nice. It was eventful. And it was stressful, but I overcame it. So I was pretty proud of myself for that. And the track was awesome. I mean, Baja, their track is sick. The event was sick. Like, I really liked it. Overall, I really liked it. I would have liked to have my own class, like my own gate drop. Yeah. But other than that, like, they were cool people. They listened to what I had to say when I was, mad about the race and stuff. And they understood. And like, but no, it was good. It was super cool, put on well. And the track was gnarly. Like, the sand, it really, like, I've always kind of struggled with the sand. And we had taken a few weeks to go out east and like ride in Michigan a little bit and some private tracks and stuff that John Gruey had hooked us up with and stuff. And it was good. It taught me a lot. I definitely think that I've elevated my sand riding, even just by going out there and doing that. And then now obviously living in Mesquite, we've got some hills and like we're in the desert. So
plenty of sand to go around.
Lots of sand. So I'm like, again, it goes back to God going, here, I'm going to put you right where you suck the most so you can get better. But it's, it's always a blessing, right? Yeah. So no, it's made me better. And no, that was a cool event though. I really liked it. And they had a lot of like events going on and I didn't really go do many of them because I was like Moto 1. So, we're up at 8:00 in the morning, but no, it was cool. It was definitely one that like, I think people would like. It wasn't so much like a cookie cutter event. I like using that word because I feel like, it's like, but that's what it is. A lot of these events are kind of same old, but that one's kind of like, it brings a lot of partiers out, but the partiers are the fans. So it like makes it a little more fun, I think, for the racers. So, yeah.
Now there may be a segue into another question there. You were saying during that they may not have even known you were a girl because you tuck your hair. And you had said that in our initial conversation that you tuck your hair. Why do you tuck your hair?
Well, originally it wasn't really because of this reason, but it's definitely something that adds to it. So back in the day, I was riding at Milestone, and I decided to go do a moto on the vet track. And again, Cody told me, we're not doing a moto on the vet track. You're not a vet. And I was like, no, I'm going, I threw a fit. And he's like, all right, fine, whatever. We got halfway through my moto, and they had this little weird chicane, like S section, but it was high speed. And dude, I don't know. I hit it like fourth gear, pretty on the throttle, and like the rear wheel kicked out on me. Like I must have hit a kicker off the lip, and there was like no air time, so I couldn't save it, and it just high sided me going like, dude, really fast. And I ended up getting knocked out, and that's the only time I've actually been knocked out, like cold, where I was snoring. And anyways, apparently, like, so Cody told me like the bike landed on the back of my head, and at the time I had a recluse clutch, so the bike didn't shut off. So the sprocket and the chain landed like right by my hair. And luckily I like tucked it in a bun at the time, but like I had a lot of hair. So it didn't, I got blessed. It didn't snag my hair and like scalp me basically. And I'm like, and I was out, like the helmet was twisted sideways on my head. It was bad. Like I've never been knocked out like that, but that was kind of a reason. And then a few years later, because I didn't start doing it right away, a few years later, we were riding, I think in Texas or something, I don't know, but it was hot, really hot. And I was like, I need to get this hair off the back of my neck because it's killing me and I'm over it. I'm like, I might as well put it in my helmet because I already got hair on my head, like, so, and a lot of the girls in Europe do it that way. Like, I don't know if it's required, like if they have to actually tuck it or just have it put away, but I think it's a safety thing, honestly, over there. But they don't require that here, but I just took it upon myself to do that. And it saved me the drama. I was like, if people don't actually know who I am, then that way they don't know I'm a girl. And then the moto dads aren't like, depending on what's going on, I don't got to have him sicking Jimmy on me to come get me because I'm a girl, like it's just weird things. People are different and it may not be how it is, but like some people, like they don't want to be beat and they really don't want to be beat by a chick. And like, I haven't had many people that are like dangerous to beat me, but I've had a few experiences like where people have been not so cool. So it's just easier if they think I'm a dude and they treat me like everybody else. And then when the helmet comes off, they can find out.
That's a good lead in. What are the biggest challenges that you have kind of faced or that you feel like, women in this sport face at large?
I don't know. I to be real honest, and I think I said this before, I try to not focus on the things that we don't have because, I've been taught to be a problem solver and not focus on the problem, but there definitely is a problem. And I think as far as like physically wise, like not like industry wise, just physically wise for women, we're just not built the same. At the end of the day, we are not naturally as strong and whatnot. Not to say you can't be, but you're probably going to have to go a little extra mile to be able to gain that strength and do those things than maybe a man who's just naturally built with more muscle or, and again, not everybody's that way, but if everybody grew up and worked out, then everybody would probably be pretty, and so saying that men are just built naturally stronger, I think. And they also have, I think, mentally, they don't, and I'm maybe not quite as emotional as women or make their decision base or decision skill assessment. I don't know what you'd call it. Like their ability to make decisions is different, I think, and not all women may be that way. Anybody can train their mind, I think, to be able to do things. But I just think as girls, we react differently. We're more emotional sometimes. And that can affect decision making if you're not careful. So I think that's something that's a deficit, And then, obviously, as you've seen, like, if there's not enough girls, they're not going to push the agenda. Like, you got to show them what they want to see. They're not going to just give you something because back in the day when I started first racing, like they had the women on TV and stuff and they like did the pro nationals and they didn't do all the rounds, but they did a lot of them and they were on Saturday. And I thought that was super cool. And they even had factory rides. Like Ashley Filick was on Red Bull Honda. And honestly, I looked up to her tremendously. I was like, that's who I want to be. And it gave me something to work towards. Now it's like by 2013, I think 12 was the last year they aired it. And then by 13, they took it away and tried to put it at the amateur nationals, maybe it was, or maybe they took it away altogether. But for a while, it didn't even exist. They just stripped it all together. And then they brought it back, but put it at the amateur nationals. And it's like, I mean, that's okay, but like it kind of makes it so that first of all, you're not working towards anything, because if you race amateur nationals, I mean, imagine you race your amateur national career your whole life, and then what? Now you're pro and you keep racing the same races. And it also makes it so we don't get noticed by a more professional level, I guess, you know? So those are the biggest deficits. But I know there's a lot of people right now working behind the scenes to try to bring it back, because a lot of the women's racing, I feel like, has kind of come to life again. There's a lot more girls that are pretty like gnarly and like, I think kind of like me, where they're like, I don't want you to think I'm fast for a girl. I want you to just think I'm fast in general. And it clearly shows, because some of these girls that are out there, the young ones and the ones that are, you know, a little older or whatever, like they're gnarly. I think they're real deal, you know, like, and I like to think I've been around to see quite a few generations now. So, but yeah, no. So hopefully we can get a series back, because I know a lot of the girls go to off-road because they can make money. Mm-hmm. And for some reason we still can't do that in motocross. And I'm like, I was kind of wondering,
you know, going into this, I didn't do any research because I wanted to ask you the question just kind of cold. But I mean, I don't know this, but I mean, are women not allowed in pro motocross and pro supercross?
No, they are. And actually, like Jordan Jarvis, she did it. She got her pro points, and you can do it. And I think it's more just along the lines of like, I mean, I guess you just got to be good enough to do it, because it's open for like, you know, it's open to anybody. So, I mean, the girls just, I guess, you know, we're getting gnarlier. They're evolving, but maybe they're not quite at that level. I don't know. Maybe they don't have, I don't know. But I do know Jordan did that. And honestly, like, that's a big deal, you know, but it's still just so hard to make those events, I guess. But I think you can't, I don't know how much money you can make from that. And that's the problem. Like, if they could put together a series that's just for women, then it might be different, because obviously the men, I mean, they're a little bit gnarlier. Some of them, of course. I mean, there's guys I beat and there's guys that beat me. So, but at the top level, you know, Tomac's going to smoke me. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, it's hard to go, if you have the best women's athlete and the best men's athlete, and they're both at their top peak performance, I still think that, you know, the Tomac or the Roczen, I mean, they're just going to be naturally stronger. If they're working as hard as me, like if you put them on the same scale, and I might be wrong, that's my opinion, but I think we need a women's pro motocross series, because yes, we can try to, you know, race with the men, but at the end of the day, we're just not quite at that same level. So it is harder. I mean, you can probably, I would guess that a woman, if she worked hard enough, could get into that top 40, but it probably would be, you know, I mean, I don't know. It'd be hard, you know?
So there's nothing in America, but you did mention something, and I did look into it a little bit during our initial, the WMX, yep. That's Canadian, right?
So, well, they actually, I mean, I hate to say it, but they have, and that's probably why the United States is trying to get back involved, because it's like Canada has a series. The Europeans have a series. I mean, the MXGPs, the WMX, I mean, they follow the whole series, and they have literally people over there that are making real money. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're making, you know, I mean, I don't want to use exact numbers, but maybe like over $100,000. I mean, at the very least, they're on a factory team.
Right.
So, I mean, and then in other countries too, like I don't know exactly which countries, but I know they have like pro series and stuff. Like, we're one of the only ones, I'm pretty sure, that doesn't. So it's like,
so that's definitely something you'd like to see change then.
Definitely. I mean, I'm like, I would understand if there aren't girls that are out there throwing down and racing, but I feel like we have enough that are like, I mean, they'd put on a show. It wouldn't be boring, you know what I mean? And at the very least, give us a shot, which they are trying to, because this year they have brought the WMX back to all pro rounds, which is good. They won't race on Saturday. They'll race on Friday, but it's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
You know, because getting us away from the amateur nationals, first of all, if you put pro women at the amateur nationals, just like what I experienced trying to come up, all I'm doing is racing pros the whole time. So I'm never having my spotlight because I'm always getting one up by the people that should be a little bit better than me in that moment because, you know, we're all racing each other. Like there needs to be an amateur 12 plus class and there needs to be a WMX. And the WMX girls can't race the 12 plus and the 12 plus can't race the WMX. If that means putting in a WMX race at an amateur national where it's just or making it a pro-am or something like what they do for the, you know, they have amateur pro classes all the time. Well, then you need to do the same thing because what you're doing is you're combining everybody and not making a difference. You know what I mean? It's all the same. Like, could you imagine as an amateur trying to race like the amateur pro guys going up against, again, the Tomax or the Max Anstey's or whoever it just doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's no building at that point. So.
What are some of your goals for 2025? Well,
I want to race the whole WMX series. That's my goal. But I don't want to say too much but I'm working very hard to be where I feel like I belong, and I don't show up to be a gate filler, you know. Yeah. I show up to compete, and I really believe, I mean, only I know what's gone on, you know, but I believe like if I'm strong enough, let's put it that way, and in the right condition physically and doing my motos, like I like to think I could be right up there with the best of them, you know, but I don't want to put any expectation. I more just want to work really hard and then show up and see where I'm at. But I know what I'm going up against, so we'll see. But I definitely would like to be up there, you know, not maybe better than the top 5, maybe podiums. I'd like to do podiums and compete for a championship, honestly. But I mean, we'll see what's realistic, you know. Like I'm not going to be mad if it's not that. I respect my competition and some of the girls that I'm racing against right now. Like they're real deal. I respect them a ton. But
who would you say are your like maybe 3 biggest competitors right now?
I mean, just based off the series itself, you know, Lachlan, Kylie, and Jordan. I mean, always heavy hitters, but I mean, they're the ones who are, I would guess, like considered to be the favorites, you know.
Gotcha.
Understandably. Yeah, you know, like that's kind of the people that set the bar right now, I think, in our class, and they prove time and time again that they're great racers. But I'd like to see myself try to do something great, you know, and we'll see what time will tell. But I feel like I have a lot of people that want to see me do good. I want to see me do good, and I'm gonna be.
We want to see you do good.
You want to see me do good, and you know, I don't know. I'm doing it because I love it, you know, and I think I'll know when the time is right to step away. But I still have a huge passion for it, and I just don't see anything that I feel like, well, wow, I don't know if I could do that. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know. Those girls are very well at winning their championships. They're very good. They're very refined, and they're great racers, you know. But I'd like to improve myself. So we'll see.
What just for, you know, the younger gals, like the ones that are just starting out, what's some advice that you would give to any gal starting out in this industry?
Well, there's a lot of different things I guess I'd say, but you know, race against people that challenge you, you know, ride things that challenge you. Be willing to get hurt because it's going to happen. Like, accept it, get over it, be stronger. I don't mean it like get over it, but like, you know, get through it. That's a better way of putting it. I don't mean get over it, but you know, like accept it as it comes, because you can't get good at anything without, you know, biting the dust here and there. You know, I mean, as you know, it's part of getting better. I mean, it's just how it is. So I think, you know, got to be able to push yourself. Got to be able to race faster people. Like, one thing that helped me a lot was racing in the guy classes. You know, I mean, girls classes are good too, but the guys classes tend to be a little more aggressive and teach you, you know, like, it's just, you're going to
stretch you a little bit more.
Yeah. You're going to have more guys that show up in the guys classes, just how it is, than you are in the girls classes. I mean, maybe if you're lucky at a national with every girl there, then you'll have the top 10 are willing to be aggressive, but I don't even know. Cause I feel like a lot of them, like you got to have like it all to be able to be aggressive from start to finish. You know what I mean? So I don't even know if it's so much that they don't want to be aggressive, but when you get tired, like it's hard to be aggressive. So, but no, I guess I got kind of off on topic there, but like, you know, just trying to race classes that push you, you know, being willing to get hurt and deal with that and like move past it and be better, you know, like a lot of pain, a lot of disappointment, but be okay with it. Like failure's perfectly natural.
Part of the game.
It is.
And what's a piece of advice that you would give to their parents?
Be encouraging and, you know, hold them accountable because it matters, but pick and choose what really needs to be said. I mean, and every racer is different. Some people are motivated by getting yelled at, like, but you know, just trying to remember that it's not just about all the money you've invested. It's also about them being happy. And like, if you really care, like about the effect of what you say, then maybe, you know, hey, you know, I know you're trying, but I feel like you're better than that. You know, like trying to be a realist without being an asshole.
Right.
I mean, it's really what it comes down to. Cause like you can say things many different ways and it doesn't have to be what you're saying. It's the way you're saying it, you know? And for me, like, I think like even with my kids, you asked, like when I train them, some parents see me as the soft, oh, you're just such a nice trainer. We want our kid to be with someone that's going to be a little, you know, more, oh, go do this. And that's cool. And some kids do click with that or resonate with it. But like, I think I train my kids the way I do because of the way I like to be talked to and trained. And I know like for me as a rider, you can only yell at me so much before I'm like, man, like, do I just suck? Like, or like, why are you saying this? Because like, you know, but at the end of the day, I've come to know because of the people in my corner, okay, if they're talking to me this way, it's not because they actually think this. It's because they know I'm more than this. I'm worth more than this. And they're getting pissed off because they don't think I'm trying. So, you know, just trying to say it how it needs to be said, but don't be too much, you know, because if you beat somebody down too much, like, first of all, if you say mean things or you say things like to try to motivate them, like, eventually you'll believe something if it's said too much. So if your kid's like sucking and you're like, dude, you're sucking, like, okay, don't say you're sucking. Like, let's find a different way to say it. You're really struggling out there. I think you can work on this, you know? I just think it's all about in the approach. And I think it keeps a rider not getting burnt out either.
Yeah.
I think that an aggressive parent, mechanic, whatever, I think an over-aggressive anything can make someone be like, this isn't even fun anymore. Like, why am I even doing this? Like, you're just yelling at me, you know?
And I would say for, you know, I definitely struggle with all those things because there's a lot of different pressures on a parent. But yeah, it's a moving target for parents too. So have some patience with yourself too, parents. I mean, it's not easy to find that balance sometimes, you know.
No, it's not.
You're paying for it and you're trying to learn how to coach them and you're trying to be a parent and you know, man, it gets high stress sometimes trying to figure out the balance, but yeah.
I'm sure. I don't have any kids and I know how stressed out I get with myself. So, and like, I mean, yeah, no, we've had a lot of races where I'm upset, you know? So no, it's perfectly natural, but just trying to deal with it positively. Cause I mean, honestly, hope and being positive, like that's what keeps you going. Like if you just kick someone, like it's like, all right, well, you know what? Fine. Let's just not do this, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, Brooke, it's been a fascinating conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure. Do you have anybody here before we close it out? Do you have any sponsors or shout outs you want to give? Oh, we're reaching for the note. Here we go. No,
yes, I do. And I don't know. Did I already blow this? Do you need to say that again? Or can you?
No, absolutely. I don't.
Can they see this?
They can't like read it or anything.
Well, can they see? I want to make sure.
It's out of screen right now.
Should I put it right here?
I wouldn't even worry about it. Bring it in screen. We've had plenty of people reach for a note and read a note.
Okay. All right. Well, some of the people that I would like to thank, I do have a long list. And first off, you know, obviously the Lord, He is good to me and He has given me a great career and just a great life in general. And my mom and my grandparents and Cody, of course, and obviously many other people. But those are the people that have really been there the whole time, you know. I mean, there's other people, and of course, There's other parts of my family as well, but those are the people that have done it through thick and thin as we've gone on. Everybody at Thor, they are wonderful. I know pretty much everybody over there, so I can't even start to say one name because I'd be leaving someone out. Scott, Shoei, Helmet House, Works Connection, Fusion Graphics, Motorsport, Tagger Designs, Dirt Bike Kids, Flow Motorsport, CTI, Pro Circuit, Enzo, and SDI. There's a ton of people that go into each one of those companies. Some of them I have really close connections with, and they're all very supportive. And I mean, I just can't really thank them enough, through championships or not, or whoever I am, they support me for who I am, not just as a racer. And I'm very thankful for that. So, and hopefully if anybody wants to help me out with anything funding wise or anything for the WMX series this year, I'm going to be doing raffles too. So we'll be doing some of that to kind of try to help fund it and give back a little bit, but also, looking for title sponsors and stuff like that. If anybody does want to help donate or whatever to get me to the races, that always helps too.
I hope they do. Anybody listening, please consider doing that. Brooke, where can they find you on the socials and things like that?
So on Instagram, it's Brookie Whip, and it's BROOKIE and then WHIP. And you can message me on there, reach me on there. And then also on Facebook at just Brook Whipple. And I don't think a lot of people know this, but there is no E on the end of Brook. I just spell my name Brook E Whip, but that's just for the E. It's not actually, it's just BROOK. So on Facebook, it's just Brook Whipple. So yeah, that's, and then a little bit on YouTube, but everything on there is really old. So, I mean, you can kind of watch it, but I'm not too current on that.
And you're on TikTok too, aren't you?
No, I don't know anything about TikTok.
I thought I saw you on there.
No,
we just barely started, so I'm getting inundated with a lot of people.
Okay, well, that's me. I'm 30 going on. I don't know anything about what's going on. I'm so out of touch with that. I got Instagram, I have Facebook, and like I said, back in the day, I had MySpace. So, going real far. That
dates you.
Yeah, it does date me, right? Some people will appreciate that on here. But no. So, that's about it, I think. Is there anything else you can think of?
I don't think so. We sure appreciate you coming on and being willing to come on. I think it's going to be awesome for the young ladies in the sport to hear everything that you've done and your perspective on things. So we really do appreciate it.
Of course. I appreciate you guys having me. That's been fun. So,
thank you. You want to take us on out, bud?
Yeah, well, this is the end of the Holeshot Hustle for this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
See ya.